There's one forgotten reason for why Satan and the fallen angels were terrified of Jesus' birth, so scared that his birth triggered a war in heaven. And it had to do with his birthday on September 11th, 3 BC. That date wasn't random, it was strategically chosen, and it would have terrified the powers of darkness, because it was the anniversary of the day their biggest rebellion began to unravel. September 11th is an unforgettable day for us, but it was also an unforgettable day for the Hebrew people. September 11th was a huge holiday feast. It was their New Year's Day, called Tishri 1. But to Israel, this didn't just mark the new year, it was the anniversary of creation itself. They believed God created Adam, the first human, on Tishri 1. And if that's true, then Jesus was born on the same calendar day that the first human was created. And this was a symbolic hint that Jesus was actually here to reset creation. But somebody didn't want that to happen. After Adam was created, some of the spiritual beings rebelled, and things got really out of hand. They tempted Eve, and their biggest rebellion almost ruined the world before the flood. And then God reset creation. And you'll never guess when he did that. In Genesis 8:13, the flood narrative says Noah saw that the waters had dried from the earth in the first month on the first day of the month. That's Tishri 1 in the post-flood calendar. Now, if you were an evil spiritual being, which I hope you're not, that would have been the worst day of your life. Everything you had done to make your own corner of the world was just erased by the flood. It was a violent, miserable corner, but it was your corner. And that's the problem. They didn't want the world to get better. But then Jesus is born on the day associated with Adam's creation and the world's rebirth through the flood. So he would have been thought of as a new Adam and a new, better version of Noah. To the evil spiritual beings, Jesus' birth was like having the CEO of a company fly in to clean up somebody's big mess at work himself. Whenever something goes wrong and the CEO has to come out, it's never good. People wonder, okay, who's going to get fired? At Jesus' birth, the world had been a huge mess since a few generations after the flood. That was the last reset. But this time, God wasn't going to order up another flood from somewhere up in heaven. He was going to show up himself. And you can see the reason he came in 1 John 3:8. It says the reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. Now, if you're a human being, that ought to be good news. But if you were an evil angel, when Jesus showed up, you would have been thinking, uh-oh. I think you and I both know that there are some problems in the world, but to some of these spirits, they didn't think the world needed to be fixed. They had abused their power, and they had their own territory here, and they didn't want to give it up. But Jesus' birth on Tishri 1 wasn't just the start of a new year. It meant Jesus was going to start making creation new again. He was going to renew it. And to an evil angel, that would have been a declaration of war. It meant the Eden Project was about to get back on track. They weren't just going to lay down and die, though. When Jesus was born, a rare star alignment appeared overhead, predicting the coming showdown with Jesus. And it involved the constellation Hydra. We're going to actually look at this using modern astronomy software called Stellarium. But before we do, I want to thank Arise Apparel for sponsoring this video. They make cool, unique t-shirts like the one I'm wearing here. This is the Bible Prophecy shirt, and I love this little detail you'll see on the little horn here. There's actually a tiny face there, which I thought was awesome. You can check out the link in the description of this video or visit ariseapparel.com. In Revelation 12, there's a description of the stars over Bethlehem on the night Jesus was born. It's actually an astral prophecy. John talked about a woman who gave birth while a dragon waited to devour the child. Here's Virgo. Now her midsection is clothed with the sun, hinting that she's pregnant. There are a bunch of other signs here that I looked at in previous videos, but today we're looking for this sign below. This is the constellation Hydra. That's probably the dragon John described waiting to devour the child. People back then used dragons to personify evil and chaos, and here John straight up says this dragon represents Satan, the devil. So think about it. What happened not too long after Jesus was born? King Herod tried to kill him, and eventually Jesus would actually die. So John would say Satan and his allies were behind all of that. They pushed back against Jesus renewing creation, but they're not successful. In Revelation 12, John says the child was caught up to God, and that's a reference to Jesus coming back from the dead. I personally don't think that Satan knew Jesus could do that, but that's how the dragon loses. And Satan and his allies are very afraid of the day that Jesus decides it's time to remake the world into a better one for good. Jesus' birth on Tishri 1 was a symbolic way to say Jesus is God here to reset creation. But that's not the only evidence in the sky on this night of who Jesus really is. This star alignment we just looked at has some more pieces to it that would make Jesus' identity unmistakable. And it only happened once in all of history, so check out this video next.